So hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Accelerate Your 2024 Planning Season with Tempo. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce the fantastic group of experts who will be presenting and answering questions today. So answering your questions from the Q&A box is Alex, who's a product expert, and also Cheryl, one of our onboarding specialists. Our main presenters for today will be Bobby, Senior Product Manager Integrations, and Jeremy, Principal Product Manager. I'm Dua. I'm the Training and Learning Program Manager here at Tempo, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session. Our agenda has a few great items on it, so we're going to start off with a quick introduction on how our products work together, with a focus obviously on Roadmunk and structure. That's what we're here for today. This will be emphasized throughout the webinar, but I'll give you a quick intro as well. And then we'll show you how to create even more visibility into your team's work by highlighting how Roadmunk's integration options make work easier. During the webinar, we'll guide you through creating a boardroom-ready roadmap with Jira-specific views. Now, we all know aligning strategy with execution is no easy task, but Tempo makes it possible with a modular, flexible, and Jira-native approach to portfolio management. We do this by leveraging the power of Roadmunk, Tempo's strategic level road mapping tool. In today's webinar, we're excited to demonstrate how we seamlessly integrate Tempo products with Roadmunk, connecting your structure managed data to portfolio level roadmaps with stunning visuals. So we have an amazing session for you today, and I won't delay it any longer. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'll pass it on to you, Bobby.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dua. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bobby Niney. I'm a senior product manager with Tempo, and I'm located in Kitchener-Waterloo, which is about an hour's west of Toronto. And today I have the great pleasure of walking you through our Tempo road mapping solution and how you can maximize its potential in both planning and road mapping and collaborating on those activities with your stakeholders. So today I'll be covering a few different things, including leveraging custom fields to track everything that's important as you plan your roadmap, how to custom tailor visualizations that cater to different audiences, how to collaborate with your colleagues and stakeholders on the roadmap from the comfort of the application. And last but certainly not least, we'll talk about portfolio roadmaps that aggregate 2 or more roadmaps together onto a single visualization. The whole idea of our road mapping solution is to get you up and running with beautiful presentation-ready roadmaps, custom tailored to unique audiences, literally in a matter of minutes without having to duplicate data. And I'll show you exactly how. So without further ado, let's jump into the application. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give this roadmap a title. And the first thing that you'll note is that we've landed on what's called the all data table view. So the reason it's called a table view is because this is a table implementation, as you'll see in just a moment. So if you're familiar with spreadsheets, things like Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, you'll find yourself right at home right away in this tool because it behaves and acts just like a spreadsheet where you can do inline edits, as you'll be seeing in just a moment. It's called all data table view. The all data here references the fact that this is where we're going to house all of the data that is going to make up the content that we actually want to visualize on our roadmaps. Now, one thing to highlight about Roadmunk is that it's a very agnostic tool. It doesn't make any assumptions about the product or the service that you guys offer. It doesn't make assumptions about the processes that you employ. It is 100% customizable. And that customization is driven off of the use of what's known as custom fields. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here, I'm going to actually create a couple of items here just to get us started, just so you can see what this tool actually looks like as you're starting with a new roadmap. So when you first start off, the only 2 fields that are going to be available to you are the items and date fields. Items are the titles of the things that you're going to be plotting onto your roadmap visualizations. And dates are, well, the dates that are associated with those items, so when they're taking place. So to actually get started here, let's add 2 new items to this list in our roadmap. So that's one item that I've just added to the roadmap that I'm going to be plotting on my visualization. Let's go ahead and add a second one here as well. And there you see, I have 2 items that I very quickly added to my particular roadmap in the all data table view. So we go over to the date field here. So again, the only 2 fields that I have available to get started here are items and date. If I click into the date field here, you're going to see that there's actually 3 types of dates that we support in our tool. The first is a single date and time. So for example, if this particular item only takes place on October 24th, I can indicate a single date and time. We also support date ranges. So perhaps this takes place over the entire course of the week. So we can include a date range. However, there's a third type of date that we also support here called bucket time. And bucket time are basically customizable values that you can include in the date field here. So again, Roadmunk is very highly customizable. You can have values in here like future, soon, in progress, basically whatever it is that you need in order to add context and color to your roadmap. So that's a third type of date that you can leverage. However, as I mentioned, all of Roadmunk is driven off of custom fields. And that's what we're going to basically pivot our visualizations off of and filter our visualizations off of. And adding custom fields in Roadmunk is very straightforward, very easy to do. All you have to do is click on the plus button here over on the top right-hand side. If we go down to the Create New Field section, you'll see that Roadmunk supports 5 different field types. We have list fields, which are single select fields. Team members fields, which lists all of the users on the Roadmunk account. We have numeric fields, which can actually be further refined by different types of numeric fields. So for example, currency fields are supported, percentage fields are supported, or just general numeric fields as well, where you can actually indicate how many decimal places need to be supported. We also have multi-select fields, which are like list fields, but you can actually make multiple selections simultaneously, and text fields. I'm just going to quickly add one particular field here on the roadmap, just so you can see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and add a priority field, which will be a list type. And here, I'm just going to add the values that should be available in the priority field. So let's say high, medium, and low. I hit create field. Roadmunk is now going to go ahead and actually create that new field for me, which is going to add a new column on my table view that you're going to see here in a second. And there it is. We have our priority column or field. And again, this is a table view. So just like a spreadsheet, I can actually do inline editing here. So if I click into the priority field, I can actually select the value for priority for this particular item on the roadmap. So let's say biometric authentication modules, it is high priority. And let's say this other item here called evaluate system failure risk is, let's go with low priority. Okay, so kind of like a cooking show, let's pretend that we're about to go to commercial break. I've chopped up all of my ingredients. I'm about to put this thing into the oven. And when we return from the commercial break, I'm going to flesh out a much bigger roadmap here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to access my favorite roadmaps and show you what a much more fleshed out version of a roadmap looks like that basically carries on from what I was just showing you. So here you're looking at the all data table view of that much more fleshed out roadmap. So I started initially with 2 items that I was creating for you with a single priority field. You can see those 2 items are here as well: biometric authentication modules, evaluate system failure risk. Here are the priorities that I set. But you can see that I've actually populated this roadmap with a bunch of other items. You can see all of these top level items as I scroll down here. There are 12 of these so-called top level items. These are the titles of the items here. So things like security risk analysis assessment, 2-factor authentication. But then in addition to the priority field, I've also created a number of other fields to add more color and context to my roadmap. So I've created a team field to indicate what team is going to be working on these particular initiatives, and I've populated that information for my items. I've created a numeric field here to track how far along we are in the progress of our pre-planning work. So you can see for biometric authentication modules, I'm 44% of the way done through pre-planning. I've created these user fields here to track who the executive sponsors and drivers are on these particular initiatives. We have a multi-select field here to indicate which investment areas are impacted by these items on the roadmap. I'm even tracking things like how much capital we've spent on these initiatives today. So you can see here that for this particular initiative, there's about $100K of dollars that have been spent on this particular initiative. And I've thrown in a risk field as well. So you can see here the risk of the items on the roadmap here. Now, one thing to highlight here is that I think most users' inclinations, especially if you're using other road mapping solutions, is to keep this particular view as clean and as simple as possible. And I'm going to tell you right now that that is not the approach that you should be taking in Roadmunk, because the entire premise of this application, our road mapping solution, is that in this view, you should be tracking everything that is pertinent for the items that are going to be on the roadmap, everything that adds context or information or color, so that you have a full understanding of what these items are, how you're going to execute on them, who's going to be responsible for them, their impact to the business. So in this view, you do not and you should not be worried about the aesthetic of the presentation here, because the whole premise of the road mapping solution is we're going to now create multiple visualizations that pivot off of all of this data. And because this tool is fully customizable, we're going to get an opportunity to select and choose what data we make visible to our stakeholders. So in this particular view, my recommendation is that track everything that you need to. Do not worry about the look and the feel of this table view, because the purpose here is to dump all of the necessary data that you need to for the full context, depending on the stakeholders that you're dealing with and the information that you need to make your planning as easy as possible. Now, one thing I'm going to highlight too is that when we create fields in Roadmunk, initially they start off as what is known as roadmap level fields. And that means that they are only fields available on these particular roadmaps. They're not available to other roadmaps on the account. And that's really for data hygiene purposes. So I may have unique needs around my fields, and I don't want to clutter the rest of my roadmap account with those fields. And so these fields here are only available on this particular roadmap. However, oftentimes in service of strengthening collaboration, standardizing the information that's collected on roadmaps, organizations may want to actually use a common priority field with common values that are universal across the entire organization. And so in order to achieve that, we have another feature here that is supported that allows you to promote these fields to account level fields so that they're available to all roadmaps on the account. So that way you don't have the proliferation of multiple priority fields with multiple values in the priority field that all mean different things. Here you can actually promote these and have everybody working off a standard set of fields if you so desire. So that's another feature that helps and aids in collaboration. And the other thing to highlight here, I was showing you this a little bit earlier as I was starting the roadmap, but this is a table view here, so it behaves just like a spreadsheet, so I can make updates and view this content directly in the table view. However, notice that with all these fields, I'm kind of scrolling from left to right to see all the full context. However, I can also click into these individual items, which opens up its item card and allows me to see the same information, but in a different presentation mode here. So I can see all of those fields that I was looking at having to scroll from left to right that are all visible to me right here in the item card. So you can see the priority field, the team field, the pre-planning completion progress, and these can all be updated and set here as well as on the table view. You can add a description here as well, so that you can add more color and flavor to the information here. So you can add an explanation as to what this is or any other information that adds context or color. And we have a rich text editor that's supported here. You can add attachments. We'll talk about linked items and sub-items in just a moment, but those are visible here as well. And the other thing to highlight is that we have the activity tab here where I can see a full history of this item. So I can see when it was created, when it was updated, what was updated, who updated it, and when it was updated. Another feature, however, that's available here in the activity tab is a collaboration feature where, without having to leave the roadmap and have to go into something like Teams or Slack, I can actually have conversations with people directly here on this roadmap item. So for example, and you can even actually tag people. I'll show you how to do that. If you do the @ symbol, I can call out my colleague Jeremy and say, please review this item. And Jeremy would receive a notification that I've sent this. And initially, the activity and the comments are kind of threaded together in here, but you can actually click this box here just to view the comments only. And so Jeremy would get a notification. He can actually see that I've asked him to review this particular item here. Okay, another thing to highlight is that oftentimes on a roadmap, items on the roadmap are not independent of one another. Oftentimes they have a relationship with one another, or dependencies on one another. And the great thing is that in our road mapping solution, we do have the ability to link two or more items together to denote that there is a relationship. And you can actually see that I've created already one of those relationships here. You can see this badge, the number 1 here, that indicates that this item here has one linked item, as does this item below it. Now, it turns out that these are actually both linked to each other. So that's why they both have the badge with number 1 in them. But very quickly here, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to actually set up these links. So I'm just going to go ahead. Let's create a link for security risk analysis assessments. So we come into this section here, we go into the linked items section over here, we click add, and Roadmunk actually supports 3 different types of links. We have a moves with link, which basically chains 2 or more items together in such a way that if one of those items moves forward or backwards in time, all of the items chained with it or linked to it will also move proportionally forward or backwards in time. So it's a very convenient automation feature if dates are changing on you and there is that sort of dependency relationship. Another type of link that we support is the is blocking or blocked by. These are actually the same type of links, just depending on the context from which you're creating it. But the idea here is that this is a validation type of link that allows you to basically set up a criteria that, for example, one item cannot start until another item is completed. And the tool will always evaluate that condition to make sure that it's respected. And if it's not at any point, as dates are shifting on the roadmap, if you're no longer compliant with this particular restriction, the tool will notify you of that. However, there is a third type of link, and the most popular link type is just called a relates to link. This is not an automation type of link. There's no validation behind it. It just denotes that 2 items are logically related to each other. So in this case, I'm going to say that security risk analysis assessment is related to another item on the roadmap. Let's go ahead and link this to Open Data Portal. Here we go. Now, actually, before I close this too, one other thing to highlight is that not only can I actually create links amongst items on the same roadmap, but I can also create cross roadmap links. So I can say that this particular item on this roadmap is actually linked to another item on a different roadmap that I have access to. So cross roadmap links are also supported. But here I'm going to create it with an item on the roadmap and hit the update button. And so that's going to go ahead and establish that link. And you can actually see now we have a new badge here that appears next to Security Risk Analysis Assessment and Open Data Portal because they're linked to each other. I like to think of links kind of as horizontal relationships, but we also have the concept of sort of vertical relationships or hierarchy. So you can actually create a parent-child relationship as well in this tool so that, for example, you can break down a strategic high-level initiative into sort of its constituent sub-items or child items. You can actually see that I have a few of those already created here. Those are the things that have this sort of chevron button, because if I click on this chevron, it'll actually expand this parent item and it'll show you the sub-items that are created below it. So biometric authentication modules has 3 different sub-items related to it. Creating these sub-items is, again, very straightforward, very quick and easy to do. If I click down here, just very quickly to showcase how easy it is, I'm just going to create an item called parent. Another item called child 1, and yet another called child 2. We support multi-select in our table view here, so I'm actually going to go ahead and select multiple items at once. All I have to do is grab the bar here and drop it on top of parent. Oops. Try that again. There we go. Drop it on top of parent, and those become sub-items of the parent item. So very quick and easy to do. So parent now has 2 child items. Okay, let's go ahead and actually delete those. And with hierarchy here, the parent item is basically going to be the top level of your hierarchy in structure. So you're going to be seeing that in a few minutes as well. Okay, so we have both this support for horizontal relationships, vertical relationships in the way of hierarchy. And again, I'm going to emphasize that the whole idea here on the all data table view is that your including all of the information necessary to add all of the color and flavor that you need on your roadmap, because what we're going to do next is now create custom tailored visualizations off of this content that we're going to cater to the different audiences that we're going to present this content to. So to show you how to create new visualizations here, let's walk through the process. Again, it's very quick and easy. I know I say that about everything in the tool, but it really is. You're going to see that in action here. To create a new visualization, one that I want to custom tailor to an audience, I'm going to click the plus view button here. Roadmunk supports two different types of visualizations. Our most flexible view is called the swim lane view. And the reason why it's so flexible is because you don't need dates against the items on your roadmap. Oftentimes when you're starting off on a new roadmap, you don't know the dates, and that's fine. You can still visualize that content using the swim lane visualization. However, we also have the concept of a timeline, which actually depicts the progress of time. And so that does actually require dates, and that's an option that's available to you as well here. But let's go ahead and create a swim lane visualization. Okay. And I'm going to create a tactical roadmap, so a more detailed roadmap for my engineering team. So let's go ahead, let's give this a title. And I recommend that you give these as descriptive a title as possible so that you know what audience this is sort of catering to and what content is basically going to be visible on this roadmap. So let's call this Tactical Detailed Swim Lane View for Engineering, because I'm going to present this to my engineering team. So we're going to say this is a swim lane. I'll hit the create button here. Okay, so it's going to default initially to months or time-based roadmap here. This is not at all what I want to present to my audience, but that's not a problem. You'll see in just a couple of clicks and in just a couple of seconds, I can very quickly get up and running with a visualization that I can present to that engineering team that's going to look very beautiful. So the way I go about customizing this roadmap, let's go ahead and actually click on the header here. And let's change what these column headers are depicting. So I'm going to change the column header. I'm going to use an existing field. And let's go ahead and break this down by team instead of by months. Okay, because I want to depict what teams are working on these different initiatives. So now you can actually see that it's broken down by the work that Team Alpha is going to be doing, Team Bravo, Team Charlie, Team Delta. One thing to highlight here on our visualizations is that all of this data is manipulable here. So if I want to update this particular item from Team Alpha to Team Bravo, all I have to do is actually drag and drop it from Team Alpha into Team Bravo column. So you don't have to go back to the table view to do that or to the item card. You can do that visually here if you so desire. So we've now broken this down by team. One other thing actually to highlight here too, if you're not content with the ordering here, you can actually customize that as well. Again, virtually everything on these roadmaps is customizable, so I can drag and drop these column headers and change their placement. Okay, I want to further refine this roadmap here for my engineering team because I want to talk to them a little bit about the priority of these particular items. So let's go ahead and click here to add a row header to further subdivide the data. So we're going to use an existing field. I'm going to go with the priority field. Now you're going to see it's further breaking down the information by the priority that has been assigned to these particular items. And again, even in this matrix view, I can drag and drop these items into different quadrants to update their values. So I can update simultaneously the team and the priority by moving this to a different quadrant altogether without having to go back to the table view. So already my roadmap is starting to get fleshed out a little bit more. It's starting to look a lot more complete. And it's catered a lot better to the engineering team presentation that I'm going to be doing, where I want to depict some information for my engineering team. However, there's one problem still here. I need more details available on this roadmap because my engineering teams, they need to see tactical information. They need, being on the ground level, they need to understand the full details of what it is we're asking them to implement. So right now, it's depicting the top level items that are on my roadmap. But let's suppose that I actually want to display sub-item information. So we have a nifty toggle here to toggle standalone sub-items. I'm going to go ahead and enable that. And that's going to actually depict the individual sub-items on the roadmap as well. So now I have a lot more context that I can present to the engineering team. If I scroll down here, you can see we have a lot more information that's available to the engineering team. So they have the full information at their disposal when I present the roadmap to them. Okay, Now notice, this particular roadmap, it's great for an engineering team, but I would say it's probably a little bit too detailed for an executive or senior leadership team. If I'm presenting to my CEO doesn't necessarily need to know all of the fine details of the work that's being done here. He or she may just want to know the sort of the top level objectives or the top level items that I'm working on. So again, one of the strengths of Roadmunk is that I don't have to basically have a single visualization and duplicate data to create other visualizations. I have all of the underlying data available already. I can just create new visualizations with different criteria off of that underlying data. Now, again, before I flip over to some of those visualizations that I've created ahead of time, I'll just highlight here quickly that all of these items here on the roadmap and a lot of their attributes can be customized by accessing our format panel here. So I can change the coloring of these items. I can color by priority, by team if I want. I can change the size of the text and the labels here. I can even add more information to the labels here by adding in things like suffixes. So if I click in the suffix section here, I could add the risk information to this particular roadmap, because maybe that's important for my engineering team to know what the risk is. So it's another dimension of data that I'm adding here, and you can see the risk is low for this particular item. Okay. If I click over here, you can see all of the visualizations that have been created for this particular roadmap. So let's actually look at something I've created called the executive swim lane. Or excuse me, let's go to the executive timeline overview so you can actually see what a timeline looks like. So this is catered to an executive audience, so it's not as populated as the previous roadmap that I'm presenting to my engineering team. It's cleaner, it's just the top level items, but in this case, it's depicting the timeline. So you can see the progress of time here on the top. This red line indicates where we're at today. And you can even see that we support a feature called item progress that colors in these items to depict how far along they are. When I hover over these items, you can see those relationships that we've created, the links that exist. So you can see Open Data Portal, what it's related to on this particular roadmap. So this is a nice timeline overview that I can present to my executive team. And I didn't have to duplicate the data to accomplish this, right? Again, it's all the same underlying data. Let's take a look at another view here. Let's go with a tactical detailed timeline. So let's say I wanted to pick timeline, but in this case to my engineering team again. I want a lot more details on the roadmap. You can see that in this particular visualizations, I have those sub-items toggled on so that all the full details, all the full context is available here on the roadmap. So it's a lot more fleshed out than what I'm presenting in that simplified view to my executive team. Let's showcase one last visualization here. Let's go to tactical detailed timeline. But in this case, let's say that I have limited amount of time with the engineering team when I'm presenting this roadmap. So I only want to focus on those items that are listed as high priority or medium priority. We're going to deal with low priority items later. So I can create a visualization that actually filters out the low priority items. So here you can actually see only high and medium priority items are listed because I've set up a filter condition here that says only show items with those two priorities. Okay, another great feature here is that you do not necessarily need licenses in order to share out this roadmap with your stakeholders. You actually have three convenient means of actually exporting this roadmap and sharing it with other users. So if we click in the export button here, the three different types of exports are PNG, HTML, and URL. The PNG is basically a static image. All of these exports are fully customizable here, so you can include the dimensions, the resolution, the orientation, even the information that's included with the roadmap and adding vision statements as well. You can opt not to show the linked items as well if you don't want to display those, or show them if that's important context. So this is a PNG that would be generated here that would be available right away. An HTML export would basically create a self-encapsulated HTML file. This is really great for embedding on websites or wikis. And again, you have full customization options. And then probably our most popular export is our URL export, which will create a URL that you can actually share out with your stakeholders. You can even password protect that. And you can even go further dimension into opting what fields are available or visible to the reviewers of this roadmap here. And you can come in here and specify what fields you want to hide. So for example, if I don't want people who are going to be seeing this roadmap to see how much we've spent on these initiatives to date, I can indicate that I want to hide that field. Or maybe I want to hide the pre-planning completion progress. You can password protect these as well. And the moment I hit publish to URL, that's going to generate a URL in just a couple of seconds that I can then share out with my stakeholders. Okay, another great feature here in service of collaboration and standardization, I can actually create a template roadmap out of what I've created here. And the way I would do that is by clicking on the cog here and say duplicate as a template. Would give it a title for the template, possibly a description. And if I hit create here, this becomes a template roadmap that's available for everyone on the Roadmunk account to utilize. And when they utilize this template, they'll actually have two options here. They can actually take this entire roadmap, including the sample data that I have here, and basically start fresh with that. Or they can opt to just keep the skeleton structure of the roadmap, which basically means the fields that I've created here, some of the formatting and the ordering, without the sample data included. So you get that full optionality when you create a new template. And you can actually see here that it's confirmed that the template is now ready. So in the interest of standardization and collaboration, this is available to everybody on the account. Okay. One last thing to highlight here. So we do have this feature called portfolio roadmaps. Oftentimes, you're going to have different teams that are going to be creating different roadmaps. However, when you're presenting to potentially an executive audience, you want a high-level overview of all of your programs potentially. You can create a portfolio roadmap, which aggregates 2 or more different roadmaps. So basically combines them onto a single visualization. So you just give that portfolio roadmap a title. You tell it whether you want a swim lane view or a timeline view. In this case, let's go with swim lane. I'll hit the create button here. And all it's going to ask you to do at this point is select what sources are required for this particular portfolio roadmap. So I can select the roadmap that I was just showing you, the 2023 Tempo Roadmap Planning roadmap. And let's do the 2024 version of the roadmap as well. So I've selected 2 different individual roadmaps. I hit update sources, and it's going to combine those 2 roadmaps together. And initially, it's going to combine them based on the title of the roadmap. However, just as you saw in the previous visualizations that I was manipulating, you can click into these headers here and actually change what they're displaying and use either the dates that are on the roadmap or the custom fields that we've created. So fully customizable, catered to the audience that you are presenting to. Okay, so now we have our roadmap here. We're done our planning. We have the roadmap. We've shared and communicated the roadmap with our stakeholders. It's now time for execution. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Jeremy, who will walk you through a very unique product offering in our Tempo solutions that facilitates that transition from planning into execution mode.
Great. Thank you, Bobby. So I'm Jeremy Stark. I'm a principal product manager here at Tempo, and I've been working on the integrations between our projects, particularly the Roadmunk and Structure integration. And I do come to Tempo through the ALM Works acquisition, so I have a deep understanding of Structure. And I can tell you that when we were just ALM Works, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we can add these high-level strategic visualizations to Structure, but we never had the capacity to actually implement these ideas. So we know that our Structure community has wanted these kinds of visualizations, but we weren't able to realize them given the capacity that we had. But coming to Tempo, we now have this great opportunity to integrate with an entire application that's designed from the ground up to do this strategic level planning. So I'm going to show you the current state of the integration that we have between Roadmunk and Structure, and the general availability for this release, for this integration, is the end of Q4, December 15th to be specific. So I'm going to show you the progress that we've made up to date. I'm going to hand wave just a little bit to our roadmap on a couple of the synchronization pieces, but I'll show you how those things are going to come to be, and we're currently working on those right now. So here we have Bobby's roadmap. We've done all the planning, and we want to switch to execution. So we want to get this data into our execution environment. And Roadmunk does have several integrations already: a direct to Jira integration, Azure DevOps, Monday.com Pivotal Tracker. And here's the Structure integration that we are currently building. I do want to just start very briefly with the direct to Jira integration, because I want to highlight how historically, when you're trying to integrate with Jira, the kinds of things that you've needed to do in order to make that happen. So Roadmunk is multi-instance. If you have multiple Jira instances, you can select the instance where you want to realize the roadmap. Here's my login data. You can do one or two-way synchronization. But I really want to just get to this particular form because any high-level planning tool that integrates with Jira will eventually give you this particular dialogue in their wizard, and they're going to start asking you questions like, which project do you want to integrate with? And it's a very strange question because in Jira, there's data all over Jira, and it's in many projects, and probably a lot of it is relevant to your roadmap. So it's what should I be doing here? And once I select a project, like what issue types, what statuses do you want to bring in, and so forth. This isn't great because it creates this very rigid integration into Jira that really has a very limited data and information channel. So we're not going to do it this way. We're going to use the structure integration, which is a direct to structure APIs integration. So we're not even really integrating with Jira. We're integrating directly to a product that we control within Jira that has a tremendous understanding of Jira data. So this is going to create a very strong data channel and information channel between these two products because we control the APIs on both ends. So let's fire up our structure integration. Let's walk through this. Again, it's multi-instance. I have a bunch of instances here. So if you have multiple cloud instances and so forth, you can decide where you want to realize this roadmap. We let you choose if you want to be public or private, because if it's a roadmap that you don't want to share broadly, just make it private and elevate the privileges as needed once inside of Jira. Otherwise, leave it public. And that's it. We're ready to go. So let's go ahead and tell Roadmunk to move this roadmap into Jira. So it's going to open up a Jira tab for us, and it's going to create a structure, and it's going to drop that high-level roadmap that we created in Roadmunk as the top level of the structure in Jira. So there are a couple things I want to highlight here. One is that we have immediately, without having to do any real detailed Jira configuration, the roadmap that we were just working on available in structure at the top level so that we can start building it immediately down to the teams. The other thing that we got are the beginning and end dates for the roadmap items that had come over from Roadmunk. And there's one more thing that we got, which I'm just going to flip over to Gantt for a moment here to show you. The integration has created an initial baseline for Gantt off of the dates that were set in Roadmunk. So as a project manager now, I have access to the top level items that we want to execute on and the baseline dates that the leadership is hoping to accomplish those objectives by. So let me flip back to single grid. So this is, you're all structure users, so this is probably a very familiar view. And as a project manager, structure is my tool. So the first thing I want to do, having maybe received this roadmap at 9 o'clock in the morning, is start building out the execution plan for this roadmap. So as a project manager using structure, I know exactly what to do. So I'm going to pull up my double grid in structure, and I'm going to pull up another structure that I have that just has the teams that I work with. So here we have Android and billing and core and iOS and so forth. These are all the teams that I generally work with. And here's the work that those teams are doing in structure with a nice treed out view. I'm going to select some work that I know that I need from iOS to get some of this roadmap done. So I'm just going to drop it right in the roadmap. And you'll notice that structure is starting to do its structure thing, which is where it's starting to roll up the status and progress for these items as soon as I drop them in. Now, if we flip back over to Roadmunk for a minute and go to look at the items table that Bobby was showing you, you'll see that there's a new column that's been added called ID. And each item now has a reference into the structure. And Roadmunk will be tracking these items as they move through structure, and structure will be reporting status for these items as the work progresses. So we can use structure for the execution and roll that up into Roadmunk and use Roadmunk's visualizations to curate these high-level meetings that we're in when we're reporting to stakeholders and so forth about the project, the status of these projects in structure. So let's flip back over to structure. So I know I need some iOS work. I also know I need some Android work. So I'm going to grab some of their work and drop it into the roadmap. And you'll see that the status is flipping around according to the work that has been done on this project already. And I want to comment on a couple things here. One is that we just included work from 2 different projects in Jira without even having to think about it. I'm just thinking about the work. I don't need to worry about where the work is stored in Jira. I just drag it into my structure, and structure is going to do the right thing. The other thing is that we've included 2 completely different ticket hierarchies in the same structure. So for example, let's say iOS is a Scrum team and they just work with epics and stories. But let's say Android is part of a safe process, and they have higher level items like safe epics and capabilities and features, and they also have tasks and subtasks. Structure doesn't care what your ticket hierarchy is. It'll just do the right thing with it, and you can combine different ticket hierarchies from different projects and teams, and it will do the right thing with them. So this really speaks to one of our pillars of our SPM strategy, which is the flexibility for teams to work the way that they want to work, well, without compromising the ability for the organization to roll up status and progress for those teams on larger projects. So I'm building up my plan here. I'm starting to get some status and so forth, but I've got some of the work for the roadmap here, but I want to start planning out the timeline. So let's flip over to Gantt. And we'll see that the Gantt is sort of laying out some of the work. It hasn't really been planned out yet. Now, I'm going to tell Gantt a couple things about how I want to do the planning. So I'm going to tell it for scheduling that I do want to be able to manually schedule. And in our Jira, we use start date and due date to track the beginning and end dates for work. So I'm going to save that off. And now I can begin manually planning, but I'm still I said that the iOS team is a Scrum team, and this really doesn't look very Scrum. The Android team might be a Kanban team, and this is fine to have all of the tickets at different lengths and chained together however I want. But the iOS team's not looking very Scrum. But we can support the iOS team in Gantt specifically by creating a slice of work that we're going to treat differently from the configuration I just did. So I'm going to create a new slice of work for the iOS team, call it iOS Scrum. And I'm going to say that any work that is from the iOS project, we're going to create a special configuration. And there's a bunch of different overrides you can do, but we're going to override the manual scheduling because we want to allow iOS to operate as a Scrum team, and we want to respect that. So we're going to use sprints for manual scheduling. We're going to prefer their Scrum scheduling over any manual scheduling, and we're going to use the iOS board to find out what they're doing. So once I do that, we're going to flip back and we're going to see these items snap to the sprints that the team has actually planned them in. So Gantt is going to the iOS board and pulling out from their sprint backlog that they've worked out with their own product owner, the plan that they have for this work. And if I click on it, I can see the sprint and I can move the sprints around here, but I'd want to do that within coordination for the team. So now we have a very Scrum-like slice of work and visualization for the iOS team. Let's go take a look at the Android team. So we've supported the iOS team with the Scrum, but let's say Android also, as a Kanban team, has a specific way of working, and they have a different sense of what a story point is than the iOS team. So we're going to support their estimation method in Gantt as well, because we want to get our estimates right. So we're going to this time override the work estimates of the default configuration, and we're going to say use custom estimates. And here you'll see we've got 2 story point fields. They actually use a completely different story point field. And they have 1 story point equals 1 day for them, and their default story points for stories is 5. So we're going to go ahead and create that. And now all of the estimates that they have for their work are being properly reflected on my Gantt. So I can properly plan for Android and I can properly plan for iOS on the same Gantt. So Gantt will do all of the normal things you would expect of a Gantt. I'm going to create a dependency chain here, and let's get some linkages going on. And I'm going to start showing you how Roadmunk is going to represent what's going on here. So you can see I've created a nice long dependency chain for Android. But if we look at that initial baseline that Roadmunk sent us, you'll see that we're now scheduled to be 2 weeks late on this item. So when this happens, and this is where I'm going to have to point to our roadmap, because this is what we're working on right now. But what Roadmunk will do is where you see this progress item here, we're going to allow multiple overlays. So the baseline overlay will show you on this item right in Roadmunk the difference between the actual plan and the baseline and the latest baseline in structure. So we'll see here that this item is going to be 2 weeks late. And we'll be able to talk about it at a very high level with leadership. And it might matter and it might not, depending upon the priority of this item. But if it does matter, we can go into structure and maybe make some adjustments to capacity or try to de-scope some stuff and so forth, pull all the levers that you have when you're managing a project to try to get the dates back in line. But eventually you're going to do everything that you can and you might still be late. And so here you can coordinate with leadership using Roadmunk and the management and the teams using structure and Roadmunk to come to some new agreement for how this plan is likely to proceed. At which point you can create a new baseline. And that will become the new plan. So now we've snapped a new baseline to the current plan. We've preserved the previous baseline so we can see how this project has proceeded over time. And what will happen when you do that is at that point, Roadmunk will snap these items to the new baseline in structure. So you're using structure to really control the execution and communicate back up to Roadmunk what's going on. And when there needs to be a change, you can use both tools to replan from leadership through management to the teams, and then create a new set of expectations around the plan, snapping a new baseline in structure and aligning all of these items in one go. So the other piece of integration that we're currently working on is the progress column here in structure is going to form another overlay for Roadmunk. So here we have the progress being rolled up in structure. We're going to want to see that in Roadmunk. So this fill that you have here, you'll be able to go to the structure integration menu and select which progress column you want to use in Roadmunk to represent the progress for that item. So you might have multiple progress columns in structure for different purposes and so forth, but there might be one that you really want to use when you're talking to leadership and stakeholders, and you would simply select that and you'll get that progress fill right in Roadmunk. I also want to call out that this is new to structure where we have a link now to the Roadmunk roadmap, and in Roadmunk you get a link directly to the structure so that you can navigate back and forth. We are working on item level navigation, so if you click on an item here, you open up the structure with that item selected. So I think we're coming up on time. This is a very high level, kind of very speedy introduction to the kinds of integrations that we're doing between Roadmunk and structure. These are slated for December 15th, and we have more coming Q1 and Q2. So with that, I'll hand this back to Dua and I believe to Q&A.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into some questions. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll go over as many as we can. And let's go ahead and get one of those questions. So, can I map any structure column to a Roadmunk roadmap?
Not any. Initially, it won't be any column. It'll just be the progress columns. When I said there's more to come, that's coming later. And that means that any columns that come in from structures integrations to say timesheets or cost tracker will also be available.
Okay, another question, and I think that we have two similar ones, but how does Tempo Planner fit in the overall process here? And then another similar question, how do I manage capacity across structure linked roadmaps?
Oh, that's a great question. So we are doing an integration with Structure and Planner that's going to solve a long-standing problem with Structure, which is that capacity is per structure. So when you turn the Planner integration on, Structure will start using Planner's centralized capacity and teams and people, calendars, the whole gamut to do capacity planning, meaning if you allocate a resource in one structure, you'll be able to see that allocation in another structure. That also is slated for the end of Q4, so that should be coming as well. And that'll provide the centralized capacity piece when you have this roadmap and you're working on multiple roadmaps and you're working with the same teams like iOS and Android to be able to coordinate those capacity allocations for those teams across structures.
Amazing. Another question, if you're on a cloud instance, does everyone need a license for Roadmunk, and Structural, or can you get a handful of licenses for select users?
Roadmunk, you can get a handful of licenses. And for Structure, it is simply based on the tier in Atlassian that you have. If you have a 500 user license, that's how many you have for Structure as well.
Awesome. Another question, can I create a Roadmunk roadmap from an existing structure?
Another good question. So that is coming later as well, and it has to do with the challenge that we have is the flexibility that Structure has to create any style of top level hierarchy. And we're deciding if we need to put some constraints on that before we just build an executive level roadmap off of a structure.
Okay, and another question, can we show a basic straight to Jira sync with Roadmunk without the use of Structure?
We certainly can. If you want to follow up with us, we can potentially schedule a demo there. There are several patterns that you can use that make the best of that example, and Structure can be a part of those as well. But yeah, definitely follow up with us if you want to see a demo of that.
All right, awesome. And just for that person who asked the question, you did ask as anonymous, so you would have to follow up. We don't have your information. All right, and then I think I have one final question. How to use rank from Jira and Structure Tempo to see the items sorted properly, like I ranked them in my backlog.
How to use rank in Structure?
Rank from Jira and Structure.
There, you would need to add a sorter generator for in your structure in order to and select the ranking field in order to get it to order by the rank.
Okay. Awesome. We can also follow up with that question. All right. I think we are getting close to the end of today's session. I do want to share some extra resources with everyone. So Jeremy, if you can move on to the next slide. So a few things that we can go to next from this point. A lot of you have asked through the question box as well, how can I get access to Roadmunk? Do I have to purchase this? So we do have a great promotion running right now, which allows you to get 60-day extended trial for Roadmunk. So you can go ahead and click the link. This slide deck will be shared with you after the webinar in our post webinar email. So keep an eye out for that. You'll be able to click the link and register for that extended trial. Luckily, also to get you started with Roadmunk, we do have a Road Mapping 101 or Road Mapping with Roadmunk on October 26th. It'll be able to answer more of your questions around Roadmunk and how to get started with it. So you can also definitely register for that. More sessions to come around our integrations, so keep an eye on our events page. And then finally, if you want to keep an eye on when these integrations are happening and follow the progress, you can look and bookmark our public-facing roadmap. So we've got one for Structure, and we also have a Roadmunk roadmap that you can take a look at. I want to thank all of our presenters today for an amazing presentation, and we'll go ahead and end the session. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Have a great day.